Hi, I'm Ruth Andrus. I'm here today with Dena Epstein to talk about her life. Dena, first of all, what is your address here?
12271.
We're in Dallas, Texas.
Well, that's Coit Road.
Coit Road. Right, that's where it is. Tell me, Dena, what country did your parents come from?
Russia.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Did they meet here or in Russia?
No, in Russia. They had buried, well, they had lost four children altogether. When they came here, 3 of them had been buried in Russia. The 4th one, they were carrying him in their arms. And that's when they arrived here, they expected the children, they expected the 4th one that they were carrying. And when Bobby saw them getting off the boat without anything in their arms, well, she had a conniption fit, there. And then realized that the 4th child that they were bringing with them died, and they buried him at sea.
And Bubby, it would be Hierarchal Andrus, who was Hierarchal Clayman. And she is your aunt?
Yeah.
What year?
Her husband was my father's brother.
And what was his name?
Harry.
And your father's name?
Meyer.
And your mother's?
My mother's name, we always knew her as Chaya, but that wasn't her real name. Her real name was Miriam.
I didn't know that.
And when did
Bell is named for her?
When did they come? What year?
I have their original papers here. If you
want me to interject? They came in 1910, and the baby was 11 months old when he died. Let's see.
Were they fleeing persecution? Is that why they came?
Were they what?
Were they fleeing persecution?
Not really. They never talked about anything that went on in Russia. I didn't even know the names of the children, and I didn't know the name of the ones they were bringing with them until Karen got the ship's paper.
The names? Just the
name. The name of the baby who died was David. David. He was 11 months old. He died of what they termed a lung inflammation on board ship. She was 3 months pregnant with my...
Probably pneumonia.
Yeah, she was 3 months pregnant with my father, Alex, at the time.
Well, wait a minute. When the baby died?
Yes. He figured that out. Baby died November 1910. Alex was born.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Did I have? Well, Alex is Sarah.
And what were your parents' occupations? What did they do when they came here?
My father was a tailor. And after they came here, he was a tailor at Sanger Brothers for many years. Dreyfus. He worked both at Sanger's, Dreyfus, and there was a time when he worked at E.M. Cab. And he was a ladies' tailor. He did tailoring over there for where he worked as on ladies' clothes.
Where did you live when you grew up?
When I grew up in Dallas.
Address?
On Crockett Street, 1901. I think it was 1901 Crockett Street.
Did you live with other members of the family? Your cousins or your aunt and uncle?
No. No, we were...
No, well, I had a question. Is it okay? I just wanted to know where, I know they all live very close to each other. I want to know where the rest of the family lived.
About a block away on Pearl Street.
Did your parents belong to a synagogue?
Yeah, they belonged to Sheriff Israel.
Where was it then? Sheriff.
It was in the North Dallas, Sheriff Israel.
Downtown.
It wasn't really downtown. It was in North Dallas.
And did they regularly attend it?
But
Did they regularly attend that
yeah,
synagogue?
my father did.
Did you celebrate the holidays when you grew up?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, he wasn't a fanatic about that we participated in all the holidays or that insisted that we went.
Yeah. Did you ever go to a Hebrew school?
No,
Religious school?
no.
Were you involved in any Jewish organizations when you were bringing up your children?
They went to the temple. Gerald was confirmed at temple. As a matter of fact, he was in the last confirmation class of the temple when it was in South Dallas.
Before Hillcrest.
Yeah.
And then Beverly was was she bat mitzvah?
Hmm?
Was Beverly bat mitzvah?
No.
And what about Marvin, the oldest son?
Gerald was, I think. Well, there's a picture of him around here somewhere.
Did your family experience any anti-Semitism when you lived on Crockett?
No,
And then when you moved into University Park?
no. And I didn't in school. When I went to grammar school at Alex, the school was Mexican and a few Jews, and we lived across the street from a black family. As a matter of fact, he was a principal of one of the black high schools. At that time, we had black and white.
What was the name of your school?
Cumberland Hill.
Cumberland Hills. And then from Cumberland Hills, where did you go to school?
After I graduated, I did not go to college until I just went to Texas University after I was married, and I lived in Austin. So I took courses at Texas.
Did you graduate from Crozier Tech?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it changed names 3 times while I was there.
Do you remember what they were?
Well, it was Bryan. It was on Bryan Street. So it was Bryan High School. There was another name in between there. And then Crozier was the principal. So they changed the name to Crozier. So it was Crozier Tech when I graduated there.
Do you know if it's still there, Crozier
I
Tech?
think it was demolished. It's in the family book. You didn't even see the family.
I think you're right. I think just recently the fight to keep it
Yeah.
there was lost.
Yeah.
Tell me, who did you marry?
Isidore Free.
And you told me your children were Marvin, Gerald, and Beverly.
Beverly.
Hmm. And do you have any grandchildren?
Do I have any grandchildren?
How many? Tell us the names.
Well, there are 6 of them.
Okay. And so Marvin has,
Marvin has 2.
whose names are
Joel,
Joel and
Aaron,
Julie.
Julie.
Joe.
Sorry, I turned it off while you
Can I
called.
give you some water?
I turned it off.
My mother did not speak any language except Russian when she came to the United States.
Oh.
And so Alex just grew up hearing Russian.
So he went to public school, your brother, and he spoke Russian? Or did he speak
Yeah,
English?
he spoke Russian until he learned English.
He learned English at school?
Yeah.
And then you and your sister Sarah?
We we did not speak Russian, and we understood Jewish.
What was it like in that neighborhood? Tell us about Crockett Street and the people there.
There was the black family lived right across the street. There was a Mexican family that lived catty corner to us, and down the street was an American family, and I associated with all of them. They didn't make any difference to me.
And you said that close by were your relatives. Tell us about that.
On Pearl Street,
Mm-hmm.
that's where they had the grocery.
Who were they?
Harry Andrews and his son, my uncle.
And they ran a grocery store.
Yeah, on Pearl Street.
And who were their children? Isaac's?
Well, Isaac's children, that was
Ben and David. Ben and David.
I'm getting all
You're okay.
muddled up. Isaac's children. I'm
Ben and David?
There's Ben and David. Harry's children was, well, that's Harry and Russell. Was
Reuben?
Reuben. And now I have to think back.
Reuben, Dave, and Norman.
The three of them.
Right. Oh, in that neighborhood, were there any Jewish people besides your cousins?
No, not in that neighborhood. They were most of the Jews lived around Tifereth, Israel.
Did your parents, were they active? Was your father active at the synagogue, Tifereth Israel?
Not. He was a member. How active, I don't know.
And what about your grandfather and Tifereth?
Tifereth. My father wasn't sheriff. He was Tifereth.
Okay,
Same as my grandfather.
okay. So you were brought up Orthodox.
Orthodox. Yeah.
And what are you today? You said you're Reformed, you told me.
Well, Marvin also started in a temple, but he's continued there. Gerald continued. We lived in North Dallas, and the temple was in South Dallas, and that was quite a distance.
Did you ever belong to a Jewish youth group, like B'nai B'rith?
Hadassah.
Okay.
I've been a member of Hadassah for many, many years, which
So-
I still am.
Tell us some other organizations that you volunteer for, that you've been interested in.
Hadassah mainly.
Pioneer Women?
Well, Pioneer Women they lost track of Pioneer Women. They pioneered out.
Shepherds.
Tell us about the Shepherd Center.
Well, the Shepherd Center is not a Jewish
No,
organization.
tell us your involvement there.
Well, the Shepherd Center, I'm still a member. Been a member for many years. And an active member.
And
more or less.
what do they do?
Well, the Shepherd Center is for people, I can't remember what age you have to be before you could join the Shepherd Center. And it's a learning organization. We have classes there, News and Views, which has the current news. There's a panel of 3 people who speak for anyone who wants to come in and listen to them. And my part in that is that after each session that we have, which is weekly, uh, well, 4 sessions a year. And my part is giving a joke after each session.
Well,
So they all leave laughing.
We're ready for a joke.
Uh,
Have you one on the tip of your tongue? A joke?
I have a whole book of them if you want.
If we, well, we'll come back to that. How would you really describe the Jewish community through the years?
Well, I had really not that much to do with a real Jewish community.
Well, say you're Hadassah. Have you seen changes in the years from then to now?
There's Hadassah's Hadassah. We just go along with the flow.
Yeah, supporting Israel all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about your family today, where they live. Your Marvin, your oldest son.
Oh well, that's San Francisco. Well, it's out of San Francisco, in Larkspur.
He's a retired doctor.
Yeah.
And your son Gerald.
Gerald is in Dallas,
And your daughter Beverly.
in California, in
New Jersey.
New Jersey, I think. Tell me, what changes have you seen in Dallas since you grew up and today?
well, Dallas has spread a little bit since I was born here. And as far as changes are concerned, of course, there's changes even in your own household. So that would be difficult to say. The downtown section, of course, is completely changed. And Elm Street used to be all the way west, and now it's also east.
What about race? Race relations.
Of course, the depends on who you associate with.
Tell me, if you were to name one person or whatever, who was your role model as you grew up that influenced you?
That did what?
Influenced you in your life, a role model, if you had one?
Not really.
Well, tell me also about your job. You worked.
Yeah.
Tell us.
I worked for Daltex Optical for 13 years. Well, we had a jewelry store. It was after we married, or actually at the time we were married. We had the jewelry store on Dock Street, which was Highland Park. And but as far as a big influence by anyone, it just came with the flow.
What about the aunts and uncles?
Well, that's a family influence. We were always a close family oriented.
And what did your husband do for a living?
We had the jewelry store.
And afterwards, as an optometrist?
Well, the jewelry store, we had an optical department in there. And then he opened up an office down in the downtown area.
And who did he work for there?
It was Pearl Optical.
I'm going to let Karen Andrus, Dena's niece, ask more questions, and then I will finish it. I'm Ruth Andrus, a cousin by marriage. Karen?
It's hard to remember. You're a cousin by marriage, so we related for a long time.
Yeah.
First question I had was I was curious about when Tiferet started. Where was it?
In far North Dallas, which was considered a Jewish section of town.
Not where it is now, on Hillcrest.
No.
Yeah, so
No.
do you remember the street?
Yes, I remember.
Oh, what was it?
Caroline Street.
Caroline Street.
It was a little wooden shack, and the men had their services on the ground floor, I guess, and the women were on the balcony, and the kids would stay and look through the curtains to the men who were below.
Were you still living on Crockett at the time?
I was living on Crockett.
So how did your grandfather get there?
Walked.
He walked to Tavera. And he was one of the founding members, you said earlier.
I think he was one of the founding members.
Now, when you lived on Crockett as a small child, did you have indoor plumbing from the beginning?
Yeah, we always had
Always did.
indoor plumbing.
Yeah. Were you taught to read and write Hebrew?
No,
So just the boys learned that?
just the boys.
Yeah.
My grandfather was a Hebrew teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't know how to read and write Hebrew either.
Really? My
No.
father did not learn that? For his bar mitzvah?
It was actually memorizing it.
Oh.
I knew his bar mitzvah speech in English before he did.
Interesting, I didn't know that. Now, there was a great story that my dad used to tell, and I'm not sure we have it on any tapes, about the time the sukkah caught on fire. Were you?
I don't know too much.
Oh, you don't know
about
about that?
I know about, more or less that it happened.
Yeah, we might have it on tape. He said the sukkah caught on fire one year, and they had to try to explain to the fire department what this thing was that caught on fire.
Well, anybody who saw it, you had to explain what it was.
Right. But you told me a good story on the phone the other day about buying your first car, you and Alex. Could you tell that?
Well, buying our first car, because our parents never drove a car. We had a car in the family that is our Model T Ford. In fact, I learned to drive by driving a Model T Ford.
At what age did you learn to drive?
I was driving at 13.
Yeah.
At age 13, because at that time you didn't have to take a driver's test. You got in a car and you drove. I had never driven in a car that before the Model T that didn't have a stiff gear shift. But I got in there and I drove it.
And then when did you and Alex buy the car?
Well, it just about that time.
You were 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Alex must have been 15.
Well, he's 16 months older than I.
Well, actually, you know, you've always said that, but he was born June 16th, 1911, and you were born September 10th.
Did you say you're not sure you were born, Dena?
According to my birth certificate.
Tell me about it.
My birth certificate, which was supposed to have been the original, says baby unnamed. And my father's name was finally put on that somewhere.
Your father was mayor.
Here he became Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R, but from Russia I think his name would have been M-E-I-E-R.
Yeah, Mayor. And what you were telling us before, that your mother's name was really Miriam?
Yeah.
How did she become Chaya?
Chaya means life.
Right.
And she was sick at one time,
They used to
and so her name was changed to Life so that she would get well and whatever.
They do that still now.
And you were born, tell us again, the year and the day.
Well, my birth certificate said I was born September the 10th, 1913.
And next week is September the 10th, 2008. So what birthday's coming?
Huh?
What's your next birthday next week?
Well, it's the 10th.
How old will you be?
Too old.
I would say you are.
I'll be 75.
Try 95.
95.
But you know what? You're more like 75. So
Oh, yeah.
we'll keep you there. Anything else?
Well, yeah, I asked my grandmother this question once. How old do you feel? Like, what age do you see yourself as?
95. Oh, everybody that knows I'm 95, they say I don't look it or act it.
Right. Do you have an age that you kind of envision yourself as throughout your life? No.
No.
Okay. Well, my grandmother Rita said she thought of herself as 25. That's what I was asking. That's how she envisioned herself.
25 and a half, but
Yeah.
not 25.
Okay.
Well, we wish you a very happy birthday. You're a beautiful woman, and I know personally that you have mothered all of the people in your family, your extended family, and we're thrilled to have your history today. Thanks so much, Dena.
And I add
You
my
are-
ditto.
You are just you're showing me, Dena, what? What is that you have?
I'm about 6 months old on this picture. The dawn found in the family album.
Your daughter put this together.
My granddaughter,
Oh, your granddaughter.
Dawn, Beverly's daughter.
Okay, now would you tell us what it says?
Well,
You can turn it around. Go ahead.
I'll have to. Things that have happened in 1913, at the year I was born. The stainless steel zipper was born at the same time. Henry Ford develops the first moving assembly line, streamlining production time. The United States statistics. First class stamp, 2 cents. Average income, $1,034 a year. A car was $500. A house was $4,800. Prizes are first included in Cracker Jack candy boxes. Thomas Edison invents the telephone recorder. That all happened in 1913.
Well,
And I made my entrance.
Tell us then the changes that you have experienced, for example, from the telephone to the what?
Well, the first car that we bought, Alex and I was 13 years of age, and it was a Duret, what we called a touring car. Had the isinglass windows. If it rained, you had to snap them on in order to have your windows closed. Well, now the 2-cent stamp has grown 40 cents. I can't give you the average income for a year. I don't know that. And a car with $500. We bought our first car was $150. A house, I don't know, except for the house that we had after I was married in Highland Park. The house and lot had been sold. The house and lot, I think, was sold for $9,700 at that time, and I moved to University Park. But on the original lot in Highland Park now stands a $2 billion house.
$1 million or
$1 billion house.
billion?
No,
Million. Okay, million. That's enough. That's high enough.
And the Cracker Jack boxes, well, as far as I know, there's always been a prize in a Cracker Jack box.
Good, put it down. Well, tell us though, were there horse and buggies when you were younger in Dallas?
Yeah.
And the streets, what were they like?
Unpaved, just, and I remember buying watermelons off of a horse-drawn buggy, copter or whatever you want to call it, and they were a nickel apiece.
Water bottles.
Watermelons.
Melons. And what about other foods?
Well, there was a downtown market that we used to go to. And of course, my uncle had a grocery store, and I worked at the grocery store.
At the Andrews grocery store?
Yeah, I have a picture in front of the store where I have a butcher's apron on.
And who's on your lap?
Well, that one I'm standing up. And Reuben, I think, is on a tricycle. And Dave Lee, I think, was sitting in my lap.
Right. But I was thinking, you went from horse and buggy to car. You've experienced airplanes, television, what else? So many modern conveniences that you have experienced in 95 years.
You know, and now at 95 years, I'm not flying anymore.
Well, what about from the radio to television?
I remember the radio where we had it was like a little needle that we had to place there in order to get the reception.
And what about the phonograph player then?
Well, the phonograph player, the one we had, it had like a crank on it, and you put a record on, and you put the needle on, and that progressed a few years.
And then what after that, from the phonograph?
Well, of course, you had television.
And
And
you had tapes. I remember you taping programs.
well, the tapes that I taped at that time, I think Marvin has those. I think Marvin.
You kept up because you went from that. And what about, what was the telephone look like? What did it look like then?
Well, it had a receiver. It was a base and a receiver. Now, of course, you have cell phones. And if you, like me, I have a 3-room apartment. I have 4 portable phones, one in each room.
Quite a change.
Yeah.
Were you using the phone when they went to an operator, when you picked up and people were party lines?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, you could be talking and someone else would pick up the receiver and say hello, and you got rid of them because you were on the line first.
I guess you've noticed bills have been more expensive?
What?
Your bills are electricity, air conditioning. What about air conditioning?
Well, we started out with air conditioning as outside units. And you had an air conditioner sticking out of your windows.
What about in the cars, and what about fans?
Well, that was a pretty long time ago. So you remember them as though they were always there. You don't remember the changes as they're made. You just went along with the changes.
Did you ever ride the bus in Dallas?
Rarely. Because at the time that the bus transportation was improved, we had a car. So I drove.
And what about cooking? What was the kitchen like way back?
Well, the kitchen always had an oven and the top burners, as they do now. They used to be just gas and then changed to electric, which they are now.
You also have what now?
Well, a microwave. Well, there was a toaster oven before that, which I still have.
What we call it an ice box. Tell us about that.
Well, the ice box, the iceman used to come and put 25 pounds of ice in a box, in a container. Under the box, there was a pad to catch the drippings. And if you didn't remember to empty the pad periodically, you had water on the floor. And then, of course, that changed to the electric box.
What about your heating system?
The heating system with little gas stoves in each room. Then we had the floor, the gas from stoves that were set in the floor. And then, of course, then that went to central heating.
Did you ever have coal here?
We never had coal where I lived or
Yeah.
that.
Well, thank you. We've gone from 1913 to 2008. Thank you, Dena. Oh, Dena Andrus, Epstein.
Epstein.
Epstein. Thank you.